So I really regret to inform you that for the first time in my 8 seasons covering the 49ers, I was literally asleep for a free agent signing. They almost got me back in 2021 on the night that Trent Williams and Alex Mack signed. I was just about to head to bed, but Richard Sherman actually tipped me off that year. I got a text from Sherm right before I was about to fall asleep, and he said, "Yeah, you might want to check Trent Williams' Instagram story." So I went and checked Trent Williams' Instagram story, and sure enough, he was re-signing with the 49ers. Alex Mack signed a couple hours later. Needless to say, I didn't sleep that night in March of 2021. So my streak was alive, and it had been alive up until this past night. 3 a.m. Pacific time, we got word that the 49ers signed linebacker Eric Kendricks, former All-Pro linebacker, first-team All-Pro in 2019 for Minnesota. Eric Kendricks is now a San Francisco 49er. Played 8 seasons with Minnesota, 1 season with the Los Angeles Chargers. So the first thing I have to say is that Brandon Staley's influence on this roster is definitely seen already. Maybe Joey Bosa comes next. Although Joey Bosa played for the Chargers, obviously, still is on the Chargers. Jim Harbaugh is the head coach. That's going to be a major, major storyline today. What does Los Angeles do as far as getting under the salary cap? They have to be under by 1 p.m. Pacific time today. They're $25 million over as we speak. They're probably trying to dangle Joey Bosa and Khalil Mack in trades, but Joey Bosa, another former Brandon Staley player, but Eric Kendricks was under Brandon Staley for a year, and now he's with the San Francisco 49ers. You could tell with the guys they've signed up front, the 49ers in that 3-4 front, there are Brandon Staley connections. Leonard Floyd played for Staley, both with the Chicago Bears when Staley was Floyd's position coach, and also with the Los Angeles Rams when Staley was Floyd's defensive coordinator. Yetur Gross-Matos, he could fit in a 3-4 front. I don't know if the 49ers are going to technically change the alignment of the front. They would probably need a nose tackle to make that work. But I think that you've got somebody like Yetur Gross-Matos who's so versatile, can play outside and inside, can be part of a 4-3 or a 3-4 front. That was a good signing in that regard. And then obviously Jordan Elliott, the defensive tackle yesterday. Wide 9 kind of guy, but also a versatile athletic defensive lineman who the 49ers can use to start doing more creative, versatile stuff. And that's the influence that Brandon Staley was brought here to bring, right? He was inserted into a system that was different than the one that he was known for running because the 49ers wanted to began evolving as a defense in a way that was sustainable and in a way that worked. And last year, I think there was that attempt in the secondary with Steve Wilks, but they couldn't tie the rush and the coverage together because they couldn't communicate at the linebacker level properly with the defensive coordinator. Well, now you bring in Eric Kendricks, and he is literally a linebacker, and he's somebody that the 49ers have needed for Dre Greenlaw insulation. Dre Greenlaw tore his Achilles in the Super Bowl. That was just about a month ago. They say that the recovery timelines for these Achilles tears for elite athletes are 6 to 9 months on average, but they can take longer. Either way, the 49ers have needed a third linebacker. That was one of their weaknesses this past season. They lost Azeez Al-Shire in free agency to the Tennessee Titans. Azeez now signed with the Houston Texans for $11 million a year. So it might have been a pipe dream to get Azeez back, but he priced himself way out of the 49ers range. They had to go for a player who is a little bit older, but who's still been playing well. Don't get me wrong. Eric Kendricks has still been playing well. Technically, he's only 8 years old, by the way. He was born on a leap day. The only active NFL player born on a leap day in 1992, February 29th. But seriously, he's 32. He's still playing well, and the 49ers now have their Dre Greenlaw insulation. What this does for San Francisco is that it allows them to pair Eric Kendricks with Fred Warner until at the top 2 linebacker spots until one of 2 things happens, or one of 3 things technically happens. Either Dre Greenlaw recovers and is back to full speed and is back in the mix, or the 2 second-year guys, D. Winters and Jalen Graham, who the 49ers drafted in the 6th and 7th rounds of the 2023 NFL draft. One of those two guys, or both of them, emerges as a viable starter. They were well on their way last year, especially D. Winters was starting to break into the 49ers rotation, but they weren't quite there yet. So the 49ers are going to be relying on a good second-year jump for some of those rookies. When Dre Greenlaw does come back, the 49ers immediately will have 3 proven veteran options at the linebacker position to run in their base packages, and Warner, Dre Greenlaw, and Eric Kendricks. And maybe by then, they're going to have options that are very reliable in D. Winters and Jalen Graham as well, depending on how much they develop this offseason and into next season under linebackers coach Johnny Holland. So that's a robust linebacker room. I think it's safe to say the 49ers still have potentially the best linebacker room in the entire National Football League with this signing of Eric Kendricks and with the development of their young guys. They've proven a lot in this room. Obviously, the best in the game, Fred Warner, who made some room for Eric Kendricks to sign by restructuring his contract. Obviously, Fred Warner is at the very top of the heap. But why don't we enter this into the actual roster right now so that you can visualize where this signing fits? So, Dre Greenlaw, he's hurt right now. D. Winters, I have listed as the third linebacker. I can immediately move D. Winters out of that third linebacker slot because the accomplished veteran Eric Kendricks is going to take his spot instead. Here we go. Eric Kendricks, he is going to get the teal highlight. Oops. We want the teal paint. There you go. So the 49ers, they've been strengthening the front 7 so far in free agency. And I think more moves might still be possible. That defensive tackle position, I think Jordan Elliott was a replacement for Javon Kinlaw, who's a second-string rotational piece. I think they still might attack first-string defensive tackle, or they might still attack first-string defensive end. You can't rule out Joey Bosa or Khalil Mack for the 49ers. And if they do that, they might go lighter on defensive tackle investment-wise, with Jordan Elliott getting backup second-string type money, and that's important. I mean, all these guys, Yetur Gross-Matos, Jordan Elliott, these guys are all slated to play. They run an 8-man rotation on the defensive line. But Eric Kendricks has been reasonably durable throughout his career. He's a guy that's going to be slotted right into that linebacker 3 spot, and if Greenlaw here, shaded in pink, is unavailable for any part of the season, I think right now you're looking at Eric Kendricks as your second linebacker. This is a guy who's been a decent tackler throughout his career. Not a great tackler, but he's been a really good cover guy. Eric Kendricks has 10 interceptions over the course of his 9 seasons in the NFL. One of the most mind-blowing penalties with one of the most mind-blowing statistics with Eric Kendricks is the fact that he's only committed 11 penalties, or only been penalized 11 times over his 9 seasons in the NFL. Fred Warner, for comparison, hadn't been in the NFL for 9 seasons. Fred Warner's been in the NFL for, I believe, 6. He's been penalized 19 times. Fred Warner doesn't get penalized a lot either. But Kendricks, in a longer time stretch, has been penalized significantly less than Fred Warner. Shows that he's got really good coverage technique. Obviously, teams have loved him. The Vikings held on to him for a long time, for those 8 years. Then he went to the Chargers. Brandon Staley was the coach of the Chargers, wanted him with the 49ers. He's been able to cover. He intercepted Jimmy Garoppolo in that 2019 season divisional playoff game. The Vikings played the 49ers. That was a San Francisco win on their way to the Super Bowl. I don't know if that counts as one of Kendrick's 10 career interceptions, because I was looking at his numbers, and he has 10 career interceptions, but I don't know if that's in just the regular season of the playoffs. But he's in double digits in interceptions, has had good coverage numbers throughout his career. 49ers need linebackers who can cover. That third linebacker spot especially, you don't need somebody in his very prime. That's been reserved typically for a younger, up-and-coming 49ers linebacker who hasn't been fully grizzled by the NFL yet, as Aziz Al-Shire played in that role for a few years. But you do need a specialist in there, or else the defense is going to struggle a bit. And last year, I thought they dropped off at linebacker 3 without Al-Shire. They played Oren Burks there. But what happened is in the Super Bowl, once Dre Greenlaw went down, that was in many ways a beginning of the end for San Francisco because Burks had to move up into that linebacker 2 role, and Kansas City just victimized him. I mean, that's when it really took off for the Chiefs. They were doing nothing before the Greenlaw injury, and they were doing a lot after it. So in general, you just need more capable bodies at the position, whether they're playing linebacker 2 or linebacker 3 is going to depend on the health of everybody else around them. But now that you have that extra body in Eric Kendricks, the former All-Pro, you're a whole lot better as the San Francisco 49ers. So what a night it was. And hey, shout out to Fresno and Hoover High School. Many of you know that I'm from Visalia, down the road from Fresno, but Eric Kendricks is from Hoover in Fresno. Clovis, Fresno. I think he was born in Clovis technically, but went to Hoover High School in Fresno. Then he went to UCLA. So Pac-10/12 guy, I think by the time that Eric Kendricks was in college, it might have still actually been the Pac-10, but it transitioned to the Pac-12 shortly thereafter. Unfortunately, now it's the Pac-2, RIP, to the conference. Then to the Vikings, now, and then to the Chargers, and now to the 49ers for Eric Kendricks. The 8-year-old Eric Kendricks, born on the leap day in 1992. That's the Nocturnal 49ers update. You know, while we're at it, I talk about being asleep for the first time during a 49ers signing. Why don't we bring back one of the great nights in 49ers free agent history? This was, I wrote it on March 17th, 2021, St. Patrick's Day. So, yeah, it was, well, I think it was past midnight. It was, 12:24 a.m. Trent Williams, Alex Smack, and reliving the Instagram flurry of a night as the 49ers rebuilt their offensive line. Early Wednesday morning at about 12:24 a.m. Pacific time, Trent Williams made the first of 2 grand Instagram reveals in a transformative night for the 49ers offensive line. The star left tackle began by posting a story featuring a picture of himself and a caption reading, "Forever faithful." There was a wink tacked on to the end of the text. Could the dramatic, prolonged wait for the announcement of his re-signing finally be over? The story's next post held the answer. Yes. It was a video of Williams bouncing around joyously, shared from one of his friends' accounts. A caption read, "You deserve every penny." Cheerful voices shouted, "Red and gold," and "Top of the Bay" in the background. And then Williams posted the video, which we embedded, but I guess is no longer embedded in the story because this was, 3 years ago? Yeah, we're coming up on 3 years of Trent Williams re-signing with the 49ers. So that was at 12:24 a.m. This, Eric Kendricks, that happened at about 3 a.m. I think it was first reported by Adam Schefter in the middle of the night. So I was unfortunately asleep for the first time. Like I said, the Williams situation, Richard Sherman tipped me off. So I was not asleep yet. I was almost asleep. And I didn't sleep all night. So I mean, maybe it's for the best. Maybe it's for the best I missed this because it's going to be a busy day. Last night I put this up there, eve of the new league year. Well, I could change that right now. We could say morning of the new league year. By 1 p.m. Pacific time today, all 32 NFL teams have to be under the salary cap. And in the offseason, that means the top 51 contracts of your team have to be under the salary cap. The 49ers, before this free agency signing wave started, had about $6.3 million in top 51 cap space. So they've obviously probably eaten into that a little bit with the signings of Leonard Floyd, Yetur Gross-Matos, Jordan Elliott, and now Eric Kendricks. So maybe they have to make another move to squeeze under the salary cap. Maybe they don't. We don't know the details of those contracts. That's why anybody telling you that the 49ers overpaid without knowing the details of the contracts is selling you snake oil. That's like somebody trying to review food from a restaurant before the food has showed up at his table. So we don't know if the 49ers overpaid, underpaid, whatever. We probably know that they didn't overpay for somebody like Leonard Floyd because we know the max amount of the deal. But we don't know. We don't know you can't say, let's put it this way. You can't say that they overpaid just based on raw numbers of a deal. You can say that they didn't overpay because you know the upper limits, but you don't know what's guaranteed and what's not, and you don't know the structure. You're only going to hear the stuff from the agents this early on. So as soon as we know the actual numbers, we're going to know the cap impact. We're going to know if the 49ers need to cut something before the start of the new league year here. They have to be under that salary cap by the 1 p.m. time that I said. They don't want to cut Eric Armstead before then because he's got to be on the team through the first day of the new league year if they do want to eventually cut him with a post-June 1st designation. So that's probably one of the reasons why that has not, inched forward toward any sort of formal resolution yet, because Armstead actually, even if the 49ers are parting ways with him, he needs to be on the team so they can push his cap hit back, the dead cap hit, if and when they do cut him. So you got that, and then you have other teams like the Los Angeles Chargers, who are $25 million over the cap, maybe even more after some of this signing has started. Those teams are going to have to jettison players. Those teams are going to have to get under the salary cap by making perhaps more drastic maneuvers. That is why the Chargers have been dangling Joey Bosa and Khalil Mack in trades. They're going to have to get rid of these guys in some form or another before 1 p.m. Pacific time today. If they don't trade them, and, I think it's hard to see a team wanting to trade for some of these contracts. Joey Bosa, Khalil Mack would cost $22-23 million a year. Maybe Khalil Mack, but Joey Bosa has suffered through some injuries over the past couple of seasons. That's a tough price to inherit if you're another team. So if they're unable to trade those contracts, the Chargers might have to release somebody like Joey Bosa. And, of course, the 49ers have been monitoring this. And everybody, I think, is thinking the same thing. Joey might want to play with his brother, Nick Bosa, and he might be willing to take a little bit less money to do it for maybe a year. And, the injury situation for Bosa over the past couple of years has probably depressed his potential value on the open market anyway. So it's going to be fascinating to see if this does come to fruition today. But we do have to mention it with the season 6 months away, but with the new league year beginning in just a few hours. There's also the timing of Eric Armstead, which I mentioned. There's still a chance. We heard yesterday that he returns to the 49ers, but the chance seems to have been slim since at least Sunday night. And it doesn't seem to have grown all too much. Although, again, you never know. Market forces are obviously at play here, but emotions can obviously be at play in the Eric Armstead situation. There is a chance that the 49ers and the rest of the league agree that Armstead's value is at some point significantly lower than the $18 million or so that he had been scheduled to play at this year. And there's, a chance that everybody's in alignment with what his value should be, but that Armstead would rather go elsewhere because he's offended by the way that the pay cut was presented to him by the 49ers. Maybe it was inevitable, right? Armstead, this is tough. There are human emotions. There's humanity involved at every step of this. It's not just a spreadsheet and it's not just a video game. But Eric Armstead played hurt on a torn meniscus. He had to have surgery after the season for that injury. He played through that injury in the playoffs. I think the last thing you want to hear is somebody who's contributed a lot to a football team over several years. He's the longest tenured 49er. The last thing you want to hear from the front office after that, which included a Super Bowl loss, which makes things all the more painful, you don't want to hear, hey, can you take a pay cut? But that's what the 49ers had to do because they're trying to be financially sustainable here. The guy's missed 13 games of the past 2 seasons. He's got plantar fasciitis, which tends to stick around. It was probably the optimal financial play to ask for that pay cut, and that can ruffle feathers. And again, I'm not the guy that's just going to run around with speculation. So without couching it as speculation. So I have to say that I'm speculating right now. We don't have a look behind the curtain of who's upset and who isn't, but that's something that could have happened. That's a typical reaction at times to pay cut requests, especially in situations like these. And if feathers have been ruffled, there's a chance that a bridge has been burned. And if a bridge has been burned, you could say that it's very likely that Eric Armstead doesn't return. All I do know is that the 49ers have been making a concerted effort to shift to more durability with the free agent signings that we have seen so far. Leonard Floyd hasn't missed a game since 2017. That's 108 straight games. That's a remarkable streak at the NFL level. Yetur Gross-Matos has been very durable. He's younger. He's 26. Jordan Elliott, about the same age, also a younger guy. He hasn't missed a single game in his NFL career. 69 out of 69 possible games. Fans, especially fans that I call them video game fans, Madden fans, tend to be obsessed with ceiling. I think it's just as important to be concerned about the floor of a player. And guess what? The floor is way down in the basement if a player isn't available. Availability is in many ways the best ability. Now, of course, ceiling is important. Nobody's discounting the importance of ceiling, but to ignore the floor means that you could stack up a team of all pros, but guys that are hurt 50 to 75% of the time. It doesn't matter if they're all pros or not because they're not on the field. They're just as valuable to what's going on the field as a fan at that point. So the 49ers have been looking at the floor, especially at the margins of their roster. And, I mean, so far, every single one of these signings, and that includes the Eric Kendricks signing at 3 a.m. last night, has come at a marginal spot. This is not a Mike linebacker signing. This is not a weak side linebacker signing. This is the third linebacker to help supplement that Dre Greenlaw spot. And you can't forget about the third linebacker spot, but it's never going to be an A-list guy. It's never going to be somebody in the middle of their prime as an all-pro in that third spot. That's why they couldn't afford to hold on to Azeez Al-Shaair. That's why they couldn't afford to sign Al-Shaair right now. You know, some guy tweeted at me and said, this is a horrible signing. The 49ers are getting a guy on the wrong side of 30 for this linebacker spot. Azeez was the right age. That would have been a better signing. And I said, bro, put down the Madden controller. You're not playing a video game. Azeez also cost $11 million. I've long told you the 49ers budget for this third linebacker spot would be around $5 million. The cap hit here cannot be more than around $5 million based on my calculations. We don't have the full numbers of any of these contracts yet. In fact, I'm going to check on that to see if something is updated. But since we don't have the numbers on any of these contracts yet, I can't give you the exact cap damage, but I can tell you that Eric Kendricks at age 32 cost a fraction of what Azeez Al-Shaair, who's entering the middle of his prime, cost. This is a hard capped league. Yes, you can manipulate these numbers through the signing bonuses and the restructures and all this and all that to an extent, but at a certain point, you cannot let the sink overflow. You can't go out there and pay non-premium positions like a third linebacker role or a linebacker 2.5 role, since Kendricks is going to be fortifying that linebacker 2 role with Greenlaw hurt. You can't be going out there and paying non-premium positions over $10 million a year. That's how you get yourself into cap hell. That's how that sink overflows. You've got to be running the drain at the same time that faucet is pouring water into the sink. So they were looking for a good linebacker on a good bargain rate, and there's a good chance they found it in the former All-Pro Eric Kendricks for that third linebacker spot. There's a good chance the 49ers found it with Leonard Floyd at $10 million a year at the opposite edge rushing spot. They could still try to get Joey Bosa at a competitive rate today if that becomes possible. And that would work in conjunction with Leonard Floyd and Yetur Gross-Matos because you've got 80 of these guys. They have to come in waves. You run that rotation of defensive linemen. You've got the high floor guys in Floyd and Gross-Matos, the guys who have been durable. Maybe you could take a swing at a player who has a higher ceiling but has seen more injuries over the past 2 seasons. What the 49ers are doing is setting themselves up with optionality, which has been a theme of this team over the course of the Lynch-Shanahan era. You can't just look at this at the A-list marquee positions. Top edge rusher Nick Bosa, he's $34 million a year. Fred Warner, what is he? $18 million a year. He's on top of the heap with linebackers. They got Charvarius Ward, an all-pro at the top of the cornerback room. Talanoa Hufanga, all-pro safety, coming back next season. We'll see just how quick he is coming off that ACL tear. Offensive line, they've got the best player in football, maybe the best to ever do it, in Trent Williams at the top of the room. Tight end, they've got the best in George Kittle at the top of the room. Wide receiver, they've got an A-lister in Brandon Ayuk, who they're about to pay. Running back, they've got the best to do it in Christian McCaffrey at the top of the room. And quarterback, they've got maybe the best. It's Purdy, it's Mahomes, Josh Allen. I mean, they got an elite guy at the top of the quarterback room who they're going to have to pay next year. So you could see the 49ers have A-listers at essentially every single position, but you've also have to have that insulation. I didn't even mention Deebo Samuel when I was going through. Kyle Juszczyk, the best fullback in the league. They've got so much talent on this team, but you also have to have the insulation beyond that top level talent. And I think it's safe to say that the 49ers have been working on building that so far here in free agency. Look at all that teal in a concentrated spot in that front seven. Next step is to move on. We might see some offensive line signings. We might see a tight end 2 signing. Maybe they work on that receiver room to add some back end depth. They have tendered Juwan Jennings, so we'll see how that progresses. He's very likely back. I do have him listed on the roster here. I am confident that he will be back with the 49ers. And of course, that nickelback position, or just the cornerback position in general, so you can give Deommodore Lenoir more flexibility to shift down to nickel. This is one of the earliest lives we have ever done. It's the first time we've had 700 people on here at about 6:30 a.m. Pacific time. 49ers, this is a nocturnal update, but they have signed linebacker Eric Kendricks. Mike is awake. Awesome. So Mike just woke up. Welcome in to Mike. I don't know if he's in the room yet, but I just got a text from Mike. So Mike is probably working on a thumbnail right now. And I'm going to take a peek into the comment section. We can go 49ers Q&A right now. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to keep I'll keep this down there for a few seconds. Oh no, we got 666 viewers right now. That number needs to go either up or down. I don't care which way. I don't want it to stay at 666. Nocturnal 49ers update. San Francisco signs Eric Kendricks. That can stay at the bottom of the screen, but it is officially a 49ers Q&A. So Daniel Matthews has been up since 3 o'clock. So I'm guessing you saw a notification on your phone. The Eric Kendricks news wake you up. That's great, man. You go back to sleep now. We'll wake you up when the new league year starts. Although I don't know, that more can happen between now and then. I expect today to be the busiest day of 49ers free agency, just because the deadline pressure of that new league year starting, teams having to be under the cap, is really important. Tim Moore says, hit the like button. Yep. If you're waking up, go ahead and smash that like button. I think it'd be cool to get to 1,000 in the morning. That might be my goal as we talk about the 49ers adding Eric Kendricks. We got a big-time 49ers fan living in New York. That means it's 9:30 for you this morning, a little bit more palatable than for the people on the West Coast. We'll have to do a breakfast show today. I don't know what's for breakfast yet. I wanted to get a haircut at some point to really get ready for the new league year. So we'll figure it out. Somebody's asking about Danielle Hunter. What about Danielle Hunter? He signed for about $25 million a year with the Texans. That's a lot of money. Most of it guaranteed too for Danielle Hunter. Eric Kendricks is a former All-Pro linebacker. He's been good in coverage. This is just for somebody who missed a lot of the stream. Really good in coverage. He's not in his prime anymore, but he's still been playing well. He was with Brandon Staley and the Chargers last year, and the 49ers need depth at that linebacker position because they need, A, third linebacker, and B, somebody that can fill in for Dre Greenlaw while Greenlaw's recovering from an Achilles tear. This is a good signing for the 49ers. Another higher floor signing. The ceiling, oh, there's my alarm. Give me 1 second. That was the alarm that was actually supposed to wake me up, but I was awake a little bit earlier. So what I'm going to do is turn it off. You guys should still hear me now. Let's get this camera straightened up because the camera is my phone. Those of you guys want to know the secret sauce to all of this. So the camera is my phone, and if I go live because of a signing when I wake up, then I forget to turn off my actual alarm. But look, I'm back. Maybe we can straighten this out. There we go. Cool. We got people listening on their way to work. Tim Moore has good perspective. He says he gets jealous when he sees high free agents sign elsewhere, and then he realizes how many All-Pros the 49ers already have. Yeah, I mean, the 49ers have the most top-heavy roster in the league. And, maybe I shouldn't say that. They have the most star-studded roster in the league. I don't think it's necessarily top-heavy. I think they've got a lot of good depth. Here's the thing. These people the couch GMs, the Madden players that are sitting there crying and complaining about everything, they won't acknowledge the truth right now that the 49ers have the best roster in the league. And the rest of the league will tell you and agree with that. I think even the Chiefs would probably agree with that. The 49ers have the best roster in the league. So Lynch and Shanahan have done something right to build this roster. That's what is just, completely defeats me, is that you've got people who so arrogantly think that they can sit at home on a couch without doing any work, any tangible work, maybe play some video games, and think that they can build a better roster than a duo. And it's more than a duo. It's a whole unit. It's a whole scouting department with the 49ers that's built legitimately the best roster in the NFL in real life. So, and then to act like you can do a better job and that there's something, just terribly off with the way the 49ers are operating 2 days into the legal tampering window. I mean, people were complaining a day into the legal tampering window. To act like that before you've actually seen it play out, again, it's like reviewing a restaurant before the food comes to your table, or like reviewing a movie during the opening preview sequences. The trailers are still playing and you're already reviewing the movie that you haven't seen yet. That's what it's like. It's stupid, it's arrogant, it's useless, and it's noise. And I think Tim has a great point down here. Whenever he sees high-priced free agents signing elsewhere, he realizes the 49ers already have more of those all-pro type of guys than any other team. And then he realized, okay, yeah, they've done a good job building this roster. Maybe there should be some benefit of the doubt for the 49ers brass. What a novel concept, right? But that's the way that it is. Besides offensive line, what's the most needy position or position in need for the 49ers? Well, they've addressed the third linebacker need. So I don't think they might get some special teams installation from linebacker, but for the 90-man roster, so that's not going to be. I think the defensive back position. I think you need to add one more body in there so you're more comfortable than you were last year. You're playing Ambry Thomas a lot. There were some struggles at that spot as the season went along. You want more. You want to flex in the defensive backfield. You want to be good with Deommodore Lenoir playing anywhere and not being worried about who is filling in for him when he's sliding down into that nickelback spot. You also want a returner. You need a returner. Ray McLeod, as of today, will no longer be under contract with the 49ers. I don't think that a Debo restructure is coming up. They've already restructured his deal a couple times. I think that you don't want to, in an ideal world, I don't think you want to push any more of that cap room back. They've got natural outs with a lot of these players after next season to be able to manage the dead cap well. I think that they're lining it up to retain guys this year. I've said this all along, and cross a bridge next year. So guys like Fred Warner, who absolutely for sure are going to be part of this football team for at least the next couple of years. That's who you dip into for restructures. Now, that being said, is it possible? Yes. At the end of the day, it's like a zero interest credit card, right? Some of these restructures, you push the money into the future. You don't have to pay interest on it. It hits the cap at the same amount. And usually, you could say it's like a negative interest credit card because in the future, the cap will be higher. So if you face the cap charges in the future instead of now, then technically you're winning on the equation. So restructures aren't all that bad. The problem is you just can't overspend and then dip into too much cap all at once because you'll be over the limit without recourse to actually restructure. That's what you want to avoid as a football team. So you just have to surf the wave. You just have to be careful. You just can't, you straddle a line, you can't go too far over it. Yeah. A team that is absolutely decimated is the Denver Broncos. You were correct. That's a big dead money bill that they're going to have to pay Russell Wilson. Those of you just joining early in the morning, we'll bring it back to the top. Nocturnal 49ers update. The team has signed linebacker Eric Kendricks. Big signing for San Francisco. Important signing for San Francisco. They've needed insulation for Dre Greenlaw. Kendricks is a former All-Pro. He slots in very well right there. All right, it's time for me to get some breakfast. How about that? I think I need to go get some breakfast because there isn't that much time in these days. And I think stuff is about to get really, really busy moving forward. So as soon as all of you wake up today, I know it's only 6:37 on the West Coast, you can go ahead and watch this live. It is breakfast time. Maybe I'll show you my breakfast sandwich if I go get a good one. But Eric Kendricks, the Fresno native, is aboard with the 49ers. Dre Greenlaw insulation. Shout out to Fresno. It is the morning of the new league year. So again, the 49ers will have to be under the cap. Nobody's really sure where they at right now because we don't know the contract details of the 4 signings yet. You got to be under the cap by 1 p.m. Pacific. But the 49ers had $6 million of space to begin this whole process a couple days ago following the Fred Warner restructure. So they should be okay or close to it. Meanwhile, a team like the Chargers, $25 million over the cap, at least today. They may have to jettison some players. That includes somebody like Joey Bosa. Eric Armstead needs to stay on the roster through the start of the new league year so the 49ers can release him if they choose to do so with a post-June 1st designation and keep some 2024 cap space open. So we have a big-time inflection point today. So buckle up. Stay tuned. Deadline pressure spurs action. Deadline pressure is coming today with the start of the new league year. And fittingly, we already had news in the middle of the night. Eric Kendricks signed with the 49ers. They've got another All-Pro on their football team. Linebacker that could really provide some insulation behind Fred Warner and Dre Greenlaw. So the day is off to one hell of a start. We will talk to everybody very, very soon.